What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another training video. First things first, I just kind of want to get a couple of things out of the way. It's currently fall time in Chicago, and we're kind of going through some weather changes. So I'm waking up in the morning and it's 30 degrees in the morning, and then it's like 65 by the afternoon. So basically what that means for me is that my allergies are kicking my ass and I am pretty congested. I kind of sound like I'm doing pretty good right now, but there may be some points during this video where my voice kind of crackles and wavers a little bit. So just bear with me, feeling a little stuffed up and under the weather. Next, what is it that we're watching? So what you guys are watching is my lower A training session. This is my pendulum squat focused leg day, or I guess you could say my quad focused leg day. Obviously that is going to be the session that you guys are watching today. I don't really want to talk about the programming too much. That isn't really the topic on hand. And then if you guys are used to watching my training videos, you'll be used to the fact that I typically will show my logbook progression when I do these as well. Like, for example, how much I progressed this set from the last rotation, and I'll kind of color code it in red, yellow, green, or whatever. But I'm not going to be doing that today because this is one of my first rotations of a brand new program. And so I don't really have numbers that I'm aiming to beat on this particular day. And that's overall kind of the main thing that I want to talk about today is my new program and just training in general, what my training has kind of looked like the past couple of weeks of my prep, and then what it looks like now as I transition out of the prep and into my upcoming off season. So I think the title of this video is going to be called Back to Basics or something like that, because that really is the main overall thought process that I'm using as I approach this coming off season. Is I kind of feel over the course of the past, I would say year and a half, that a lot of my programming principles and everything have been pretty sound, but I've been guilty, as with a lot of people, of kind of getting caught up in the noise. We are currently living in a time in the fitness industry, bodybuilding, social media, whatever you want to call it, where there's a lot of noise on social media. There are a lot of people who say that this exercise is good for you and this exercise is bad for you. There will be a lot of people that'll say this food is good for you and this food is bad for you, and things along those lines. But particularly within the training, we've kind of started to see a couple of camps that have started to rear their heads in bodybuilding lately. There is the science-based camp with the people who do everything optimally and pay attention to the studies. There's the meathead group of people who are kind of like, I don't mean this disrespectfully when I say meathead, but people who are kind of like Branch Warren, Sam Sulek type of style, people who just kind of, they don't really think as hard and they just focus on the basics. And then I think that there's a group of people who lie somewhere in the middle. And while I do believe that I was somebody who kind of lied somewhere in the middle, my experience with my latest competition has kind of led me to believe that I kind of was getting sidetracked and kind of losing my way a little bit. So kind of one of the things that I will talk about today. But overall, let's kind of rewind a little bit, and I want to talk about what my training looked like the last couple of weeks of prep. So I think a good place to start off would be around the 5 to 6 week out mark. Starting around the 5 to 6 week out mark, I'll be very honest with you guys, I really did not enjoy going to the gym. And if you guys have been following me on social media for any length of time, you'll obviously know that the gym and training is the biggest passion that I have in my life. And so when I kind of get to that point where I don't want to go to the gym, typically what happens is we kind of deload and we pull things back, but things were a little bit different this time around. The main reason why I wasn't really enjoying going to the gym was mainly due to the fact that my strength and everything was starting to regress because of how lean that I was getting, and the fatigue that I was feeling outside of the gym was starting to get pretty noticeable, and it just wasn't making the gym fun like it used to be. So I kind of covered this in my prep vlogs. With the past couple of weeks of training, I decreased the frequency pretty considerably towards the end of the prep. I was only training 3 days per week. I was training Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I was taking the weekends off. And then each of the sessions that I was doing was very, very scaled down in terms of volume. I was typically only working up to one working set, and that was really it. And I kind of follow that for the last like 4 weeks of prep up until we got to around 2 weeks out. And then around the 2 week out mark, I had already kind of decided ahead of time that around the 2 week out mark, I was going to pull back on my training volume and basically run a 2 week deload headed into the show. At the time of being 2 weeks out, I had been dieting for about 40 weeks and I was just super, super fatigued. So I wanted to take those last couple weeks of the prep just to kind of ease off on the training and the intensity and clear off some of that fatigue so that I could get back in the gym right after the show and have very productive workouts. My original plan was that I was going to take some time off of the gym after the prep, but as I kind of started to think things through a little bit more, it kind of made it more sense for me to pull back on my training leading into the show so that I could present a well-rested, refreshed physique on stage, or at least, that was the thought process. And then as soon as the show is over, I already found myself in a position where I was pretty well rested and pretty well recovered. So instead of taking that week off after the show, I actually just got right back in the gym. The show ended and then I had some good food on Saturday and Sunday and I was able to catch up on a bunch of sleep. And I woke up on Monday morning and I felt amazing on Monday. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the gym and I'm going to get started training and I'm going to get started with the off season. And I have just kind of progressively felt better and better and better and better as the days and the weeks have gone on post show, as the food has gone in and my body weight has gone up and the mental and physical fatigue from the prep has worn off, I guess I should say. It's been easier and easier for me to continue to come into the gym here and keep kicking ass. So like I said, my original post-show plans were to kind of take some time off, but what actually ended up happening was that I was basically clearing up that fatigue before the show started. And now that the show is over, I find myself in a really good position to hit this new training program ground running. And I'll kind of use that as a segue point to talk about the new training program and tying that into the title of this video with back to basics. So I am going to be running an upper-lower split going forward for at least this beginning part of the off season for a couple reasons. One, I think that this split really fits my development level best. If you had asked me a couple of months ago before my prep, I would have said that the upper-lower split is more of a split that's kind of geared toward beginners, so to say, and people who are, I guess that you could say, how do I want to say this without sounding like a dick, like a lower level of development than me. Like I've been training for like 5 or 6 years. Most of the time, people who have been training for 5 to 6 years have kind of outgrown the lower split. But this show for me was a huge wake-up call that I am not as advanced of a bodybuilder as what I thought. And so that really has kind of inspired me to go back to basics, as obviously by the title of the video, and not necessarily basics in the sense of exercise selection, but more so basics in terms of like programming principles. So I think one of the things that I was getting really caught up on was doing too many exercises per body part, using like 3 or 4 different exercises to train my chest or whatever like that, when realistically I could get the same accomplishments out of maybe 2. And then just overall in terms of frequency, I think that I could probably be training most of my muscles with a slightly higher level of frequency, maybe a slightly lower level of volume within each individual session, which would allow me to hit them at a higher frequency and therefore hit them more times throughout the year. So lots of different thoughts that have been going through my head recently with the training, but by and large, I do feel very confident with the upper-lower split that I'm running in the sense that I feel pretty good that this is the right split that I need to be running. Another advantage of the upper-lower split is that it's going to allow me to prioritize my lagging muscle groups, which in my opinion are definitely my legs, like everything in my lower body. If I had to pick pick one muscle group in my lower body that is somewhat decent, it's probably my glutes, but even my glutes could be way better. And when we take a look at my quads, calves, hamstrings, and adductors, I mean, those need a lot of work. So the upper-lower split will allow me to prioritize those muscle groups, because with the upper-lower split, I will be hitting my lower body very, very frequently. And then because of the way that I have the upper-lower split set up, am keeping my volume in my lower body exercises relatively scaled down. So basically the way that the split is running right now is I'm running it upper-lower rest, upper-lower rest, upper-lower rest, repeat, so I'm training every muscle group every 72 hours. So with a split like this is really going to allow me to train my legs at a super high level of frequency, because I will have a leg day, and then basically 3 days later I'll have another leg day, and then repeat. And because I'm keeping the volume relatively lower in my upper body sessions, and as I go through the off season, I'm scaling up the volume on my leg days, I really feel pretty confident that this split is going to see me with some bigger legs if I just continue to dedicate some time to it and continue to progress my lifts. If you guys were following me last year, in my last off season, I ran a somewhat similar split, but I was actually hitting my legs 3 times per week. I do think that I may run that again this upcoming year. I don't think that now is the time for me to do that. Even though I feel pretty good post-show, I'm still definitely not at 100%. I think it's really important to understand that I dieted for like 10 months. It was like a 40-week diet, and I lost almost 70 pounds, and at this point of me filming this video, I'm only 3 weeks post-show. So it's going to take a little bit longer than 3 weeks for me to get back to full 100% recovery capability. But as far as what I'm feeling now, I'm definitely better than what I was at post-show, but I'm not where I would be for peak off-season. I think it's also worth mentioning that I am cruising on PEDs right now, so my recovery is also somewhat limited and impacted in that way, but that will obviously change as the off-season progresses. So probably the only other thing that I really feel the need to mention on the training program is that at the moment I am only working at one working set per exercise, just to kind of start off. Whenever I start off a new program, I'll typically only work up with one working set per exercise, just to start off as a baseline there, and then based off of what my lagging body parts are and what it is that I'm trying to improve, I will increase volume accordingly. So at the moment I'm only doing one working set of most exercises, with calves being the exception. But as we go forward in the off season and as my logbook starts to shape up and progress a little bit more, I will start to add volume, but strategically. I'll be adding in more leg extensions, more leg curls, more adductors, etc., so that I'm building up the training volume in the areas that I am trying to improve. So with the last minute or two of this workout, I guess I'll leave you guys with some closing thoughts about the session that you're watching and kind of switch views a little bit. So everything that you guys have seen up until this point is my preferred programming up until this point in the session. So typically when I finish the pendulum squat, what I would prefer to do is to go over to the seated leg curl. And then after the seated leg curl, I would finish the workout with my hip hinge movement. And my hip hinge movement on this day is typically the hyperextension, a 45-degree hyperextension that I use to focus on the glute and hamstrings. On this particular day, the hyperextension was broken, so I did the glute bridge instead, and then the seated leg curl was actually taken at the time that I finished the pendulum. So everything that you've seen up until this point in the session is exactly how I like to do it, in the order that I like to do it, except for this. I really don't like this glute bridge after using it. I honestly probably won't use it again. I think the Nautilus one is way better. This is the Arsenal Strength one, and I'm really just not much of a fan. And I do typically prefer to do the hamstring curl before I get into the hip hinge movement. I find going from the pendulum squat straight into the hyper or the glute bridge just really kind of wrecks my lower back a little bit. So by doing the hamstring curl in between the squat and in between the hyperextension, not only only does it give me an opportunity to get the hamstring shortened, but it also gives me an opportunity to kind of give my lower back a little rest. So I'm not hitting it with 2 exercises back to back. My lower back gets a little rest here on the hamstring curl, and then I can kind of finish off my lower back on the hyper. Probably the last thing that I will mention here is you will see the rolled up mat that is underneath the seated leg curl here. This particular seated leg curl, in the way that I get set up in it, it doesn't allow me to get that full stretch. And so by rolling up a yoga mat here and putting it in between my quads and the knee pad, it kind of increases that distance in between those and allows me to get that full stretch there. So I have since applied the same thought process to my leg extensions to allow me to get a deeper stretch in the leg extension, and it's working out pretty good. So I would definitely recommend any of you guys who are watching this video to start doing that if your leg curls and leg extensions are being cut short for range of motion. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about today, guys. If you guys have any questions about the upcoming split or anything, please leave them as a comment below. Lots of training content going to be coming your way. I've got a ton of training videos that are saved on my hard drive. Just got to commentate them and upload them. So let me know what it is that you guys are interested in seeing. Let me know if you have any questions or anything, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and as always, take care of yourselves.